63, end of Disc 1. Ryan had to give it to Hector Manada. In spite of being far richer than Augustus, he didn't show it. The CEO of Dynamis lived in a 3-floor manor of yellow stones within walking distance of his company's HQ, north of New Rome. The property was big, but nothing compared to Mount Augustus. The architectural style reminded Ryan of South America's 19th-century properties, though Hector had also gathered a sizable collection of Mesoamerican artifacts in his garden. Statues of Aztec gods lined the path to the house, like a private guard. And of course, the property crawled with private security guards with top-of-the-line weaponry. When Ryan arrived, Sunshine and Enrique's helicopter had already landed in the garden. Security guards checked on the courier, but let him pass unmolested. Apparently, the siblings had forewarned them. Alphonse Manada had joined his brother, both backed by an elite security team. Leonard Hargraves had landed on the grass, though he somehow didn't set it on fire even while in his sun form. Even Ryan had taken the time to change himself back to his old costume, acid rain having savaged the cashmere suit. One didn't confront a final boss without looking nice. But the scene quickly disappointed Ryan. Hector Manada wasn't raising a submachine gun to die in a blaze of glory, Scarface style. He didn't look worried about the urban warfare happening a few districts away from his house. In fact, he didn't seem troubled at all. For Hector Manada was gardening. "I guess this is a family thing," Ryan said snidely, as the corporate mastermind tended to an ugly rose bush. The floral arrangements were terrible, the work of an amateur. Sons. A pudgy man with gray hair and a face resembling Pablo Escobar's, Hector Manada had traded the business suit for casual white clothes and a straw hat. If Ryan hadn't seen his face before, he might have mistaken him for a mere employee. "I didn't expect you. Especially not in such." His eyes wandered to Leo Hargraves. "Shining company." "Surprised, father?" Alphonse asked, his tone lacking any familial warmth whatsoever. "Mr. Manada," Leo said, always polite. "It has been a while." "Not long enough, I must say," the CEO replied, before finally noticing Quick Save. "And who might you be?" "Hi, I'm Quick Save," Ryan presented himself. "I'm the guy who ruined all of your evil plans, but don't tell anyone." "My evil plans," the CEO answered with a forced smile. "I do not understand." "I think you do, father," Enrique said, as he straightened his tie. "We destroyed the Metagang 1 hour ago." "An action which I did not authorize," the CEO replied with a frown, before forgetting Ryan's existence and glancing at Alphonse instead. "Nor do I remember recalling you to New Rome either. You forfeited any authority over me when you betrayed us all, father," Alphonse replied. "You wanted to stay in power so much, you would rather clone yourself than let us inherit?" "Clone myself?" Hector Manada feigned ignorance. "We have Psyshock in custody, father," Enrique said. He admitted everything. From your secret deal with Adam the Ogre to your mind-transferring project. Ryan knew it was probably a bluff, considering the timeline of events, but it worked like a charm. "Is that so?" Hector asked, glancing at the soldiers following his sons. The courier could almost see the gears turning in the CEO's head, as he weighed his options. "We have recordings, captured technicians, proof of monetary transactions," Enrique continued. "Did you know the Metagang had unearthed a Mecran base beneath Rusttown?" Though he quickly corrected his expression, the CEO's brief look of genuine surprise told Ryan that no, he didn't. As the courier guessed, the Metagang had planned to betray him from the start, take Dynamis elixirs, until they could overthrow the company with Mecran's weaponry. "So you were a traitor and a fool," Alphonse Manada said, with a grunt of disgust. He had noticed the look of surprise too. "You despise us so much?" "Can you blame me, Alphonse?" Hector replied with a sneer. Sometimes I truly wonder if you came from my loins. You and Augustus would have turned Italy into a bloody battlefield if I hadn't sent you away. So instead you sent psychos to wage war for you? Enrique asked, shaking his head. I still remember what you told me when I welcomed Felix Varon into our fold. Don't rock the boat. Augustus' influence needs to be constrained, but we can't afford a direct confrontation, Hector snapped back. We have no means of getting rid of him permanently. We do, Alphonse said with confidence. The gravity gun. Your obsession with miracle weapons will be your undoing, Hector lambasted his son. If yours fails, we will have an invincible madman with nothing left to lose on our hands. Augustus will never be satisfied, Leonard Hargreaves interrupted the conversation. He wants nothing less than total dominion over Europe. His delusions of grandeur mean nothing, Hector scoffed. You don't know him like I do, Hargreaves. Sunshine scoffed. I have been sparring with Augustus long before you came to Italy, Mr. Monada. I know him well. No, Hargreaves, because if you did, you would have grasped a simple truth. With all his power, Augustus could have established himself as a god-king, written laws, but what does he do? Peddle drugs, launder money, corrupt existing infrastructures. At the end of the day, Augustus is just a gangster with cancer, and that's all he will ever be. The CEO shook his head in frustration. Don't you see that to win, we only have to outlast him? Let nature do its work. And let countless suffer in the meantime? Sunshine replied. Assuming the next Augusti generation isn't made of the same cloth? Well, to be honest, Ryan raised his hand to speak on behalf of Livia. The adults are talking, quick save, Alphonse interrupted him. Then why are you here? Ryan replied with a mocking tone, being far, far older than the VP. The nuclear-powered cyborg glared at him, but the courier wasn't intimidated in the slightest. Enough, Enrique said, a hint of frustration in his voice. And are you truly so different, father? Alphonse asked mockingly. Hector's expression turned into one of pure disgust. You dare compare me to Augustus, my son? I am no saint, I confess, but I do not go around murdering people who never crossed me. You raised us to believe Dynamis had a mission. To rebuild a better civilization, based on free market, the rule of law, and individual freedom. Alphonse's voice turned bitter. One that wouldn't repeat the mistakes of the pre-war nations. Yet all you have done is repeat the patterns of the past, and maintain a status quo unsuitable for mankind. One that benefits Augustus. Ryan realized he had met Fallout's type elsewhere before. Disappointed idealists. And as he listened to the man's speech, he couldn't help but be reminded of Livia's own situation. Like her, the Monada were children disagreeing with their father's rotten, rigid vision of the world. Unlike Livia though, who couldn't escape Augustus' grasp, the Monada siblings had decided to rebel. Would it work though? That unsuitable status quo, as you call it, is the only one we have, Hector replied angrily. I've played with the cards dealt to me. Whatever your reasons, you conspired with the Meta gang, provided them with company resources, and, willingly or not, nearly allowed Adam the Ogre to get his hands on Mecran technology, Enrique pointed out. We can't let that slide, and neither will the board. I am the board, Hector replied with a frown. Ryan couldn't resist. Not yet. Alphonse and I have enough shares to force a vote, and you know the board and other corporations will vote for your retirement, Enrique said. We have too much proof, and they can't be seen cooperating with psychos. Our image and reputation is our armor, but they are also our weaknesses. And most importantly, we have the army, Alphonse stated the obvious. Do not think you can prevent what's coming. Hector's scowl deepened. You would harm me, my son? Your own father? After what you did? What you plan to do? Alphonse asked, lowering his head to lock eyes with his father. Yes, I would. Hector held the glare for a moment, before looking at his other child. Et2, Enrique? You know what your brother will do if he inherits my post? Yes, Enrique replied, but dabbling with psychos won't be one of them. Well said, brother, Alphonse added. Enrique will be my vice president, and we will clean up your mess. We will reforge Dynamis into what it should have been. A beacon that will rebuild civilization, one without psychos, and certainly without Augustus. You may have failed the dream, father, but we won't. Come with us, Mr. Manada. Sunshine briefly ramped up the heat around him. I promise you will not be harmed, and be entitled to a fair hearing. Take the graceful way out, father, Enrique pleaded, before glancing at Alphonse. Or else, it will have to be the other way. For a long, agonizing moment, Dynamis' CEO said nothing. He slowly glanced at his sons, then at Leonard, and finally to the private security members backing them up. Whether out of fear of Alphonse Manada, disgust, or opportunism, none of them moved to shield their employer. It seemed that in Dynamis, power shifted swiftly. Eventually, although Ryan had prepared himself for a fight, Hector Manada offered his hands in surrender. You doom us all, fools. It is a new dawn for Dynamis, father, Alphonse Manada declared. He sounded quite pleased with himself. One long overdue. After me, the flood, Hector Manada prophesied with quiet dignity, as soldiers grabbed him by the arms. When Ryan glanced at the towering Alphonse, who watched his father being carried away, the time traveler realized he might have put someone far more dangerous in charge of Dynamis. That's it, the courier asked Enrique. After everything he did, you just talk it out? You expected a hail of gunfire perhaps? Il Miglior's manager replied dryly. Unlike Augustus, we do not shoot all of our problems. My father is many things, but a fanatic isn't one of them. He would rather go into forced retirement than die for nothing. So, what? You're going to imprison him on a private island, Napoleon style? Pretty much. If all goes as expected, his assets will be confiscated, he will be surrounded by Alphonse's people, and he will be kept away from any form of power whatsoever. Enrique looked at Ryan with disapproval. This is what we adults call diplomacy, Romano. It is boring, but it usually spares us a great deal of bloodshed. It was good. Ryan had expected the change of power to end in violence, because that was all he ever knew. If only more villains were reasonable, Leo Hargraves lamented. So, it's over. Now, we must decide what to do with the bunker. Not yet, Hargraves, Alphonse said. There will be a transition of power, and I wish you to assist us with it. I will pay you for your service. We do not work for money, Fallout. You misunderstand me, the cyborg replied with a hint of amusement. Our goals are the same. We both want Augustus dragged off from his throne. Now that my father has been dealt with, it is time we focus on the true enemy. The living son crossed his arms, the opportunity too great to pass up. I'm listening. Not here. Alphonse glared at Ryan next. And I have had enough of your blatant disrespect. Quick save. You did your job, but that's it. Fuck off. Love you too, Nagasaki, Ryan replied and prepared to leave, having done what he had set out to do. Besides, staying in Alphonse Manada's company for too long would probably give him cancer. Ryan. Unlike Fallout, Sunshine bowed respectfully to the time traveler. There is something I must ask of you. Sorry, Sunshine, I won't join your circus, Ryan cut him off. Too much bad blood. I expected as much, Leo said with a sigh. Still, on behalf of the carnival, no, all of New Rome, thank you. Most people won't know it, but your actions saved countless lives. History books may not mention you, but we will not forget. Don't make promises you can't keep, Ryan replied with a shrug. But, thanks. That shiny paladin was too noble to dislike. While Ryan would have left the Manada property by himself, Enrique personally decided to escort him to his car. This isn't the end, is it? The courier asked Blackthorn. It didn't feel like an ending at all. It's just the beginning. Don Hector wasn't wrong. This is the calm before the storm, Romano. My brother is in charge, and he is not as subtle as our father. If Augustus didn't know we cooperated with Hargraves already, he will learn it soon. And even if it suffered heavy damage, that base below Rust Town contains a treasure trove of technology, and we must decide what to do with it. I guess overthrowing your father was the easy part, Ryan mused, his mood turning from curious to slightly depressed. I don't know how to feel about it. I've seen your reaction to my brother's speech, Enrique said. You seemed troubled. Sharp. When I tried to overthrow my fatherly figure's hold on me, it ended with his death, Ryan replied, his thoughts turning to Len and Bloodstream. And even dead, his influence still holds a friend back. So when I looked at you too, I can't help but wonder what could have been. Enrique said nothing, and for that, the courier was thankful. However, when Ryan put a hand on his Plymouth Fury's door though, Blackthorn moved right in front of him. You are not leaving yet, the new Dynamis VP declared. I told you we would have a talk, Romano. We're having it now. What is there to say? Though if it's for gardening lessons, I guess you could make an appointment. We have plenty of things to discuss, Enrique said while crossing his arms. I know your sister was in the bunker during the attack. One of the Metagang's members was found trapped in a bubble, and Psyshock's living quarters were ransacked. And most curious of all, our men couldn't find the brain-scanning technology our father lent him. I guess you should hire better people to do your groundwork, Mr. Nepotism. I wondered what your stakes were in this, but now I understand, Enrique said, ignoring the jab. You were after this tech from the start. This entire exercise was a distraction. Not really. Ryan's thoughts turned to Jasmine. If I told you the Metagang caused the permanent death of someone I cared for, would you believe it? Permanent death? Enrique noticed the odd wording, but Ryan didn't enlighten him. People also saw you at a dinner with Livia Augusti and Fortuna Varin, and you apparently brought the latter home. Witnesses said the scene looked intimate. I'm putting an end to the rumors right here, Ryan said, immediately sensing the danger. Fortuna Varin isn't my girlfriend. I have standards. I doubt that, Enrique replied dryly. The panda also told me a person matching the Augusti assassin Mortimer's description came to your rescue against acid rain. You must understand that I am suspicious about your true allegiances. The courier shrugged. I've got no allegiances to any faction. I'm a wild card. Then you don't believe in anything? I thought you were a better man than that.
Aww.
Did you care? Much to Ryan's surprise, it seemed like Blackthorn did. For all your faults, Romano, you are a competent genome with great potential. I would not have given you the time of a day if I didn't believe it. You are a powerful fighter, a skilled tactician, and incredibly resourceful. I shudder to think what you could achieve if you could look beyond childish self-gratification. Ryan wasn't certain if it was meant as a compliment or criticism. Probably both. I could return the sentiment, he said. I expected you to be a lot more cutthroat, but you seem rather honorable and well-meaning below the surface. You could do a lot more for the world outside of Dynamis. You are wrong, Enrique replied. By themselves, humans can only do so much. We conquered the planet by sacrificing our individuality for collective strength. Though I do not share his methods, I agree with my brother's mission statement. Dynamis may not always change the world for the better, but it can. After seeing Rust Town, I somewhat doubt it, Ryan replied, before smiling behind his mask. But I'm an optimist. People can change. Even if there would be unintended consequences, the Metagang's defeat had put the time traveler in a cheerful mood. After all the darkness of the previous failed run, this loop had proved he could turn things around. I do not trust you, Romano. You are unpredictable, loyal to none, and probably the most dangerous individual I have met short of Augustus. Thank you, Greenhand. Enrique put his hands in his pants pockets, the perfect picture of corporate confidence. However, you probably prevented a disaster and saved Dynamis, in a roundabout way. So, while I hate to use the term, I will look the other way this once. You are no longer welcome in Il Miglior though, I cannot look past your ties to the Augusti. At least Felix burned that bridge. It's fine, I took the job to do one thing, and it is finished. Ryan pointed a finger at the manager. I'm keeping all my merchandise rights though. Don't you dare sell quick save miniatures. I will do my best to forget you even exist. I return the feeling. I'm still going to visit my team in the hospital though. Spoiler warning, if you try to stop me, you will fail. Here's what will happen, Romano. I will allow you to say your goodbyes to your teammates unmolested, and I will wire you a generous compensation for your service. Blackthorn locked eyes with Ryan through their respective masks. But afterward, you and your sister will leave. Leave for where? Anywhere, far, far away from New Rome, Enrique said. He will be too busy with the transition in the next few days to do so, but once his position is secure, my brother will hunt you two down. I know him. Your allegiances are too dubious, your ties to the Augusti too suspicious, and your sister too important. Ryan understood the Monada might want him gone now he had outlived his usefulness, but Shorty? Why were they so interested in her? What is it you're not telling me, Black Gardener? Enrique remained silent for a few seconds, his body so still the courier thought he might have turned into a statue. I let Len Sabino go once, he finally admitted. But I cannot protect her forever. Alphonse knows her base's location, and he can access it if he so chooses. Take everything you can carry with you, and go. Ryan's tone turned dangerous. Is that a threat, Greenhand? Because as the Metagang can attest, I'm very effective at killing weeds. Your brother won't be the first nuclear device I made go kaboom. No, Romano, it is not a threat. It is a warning. Strange as it may sound to you, I harbor no ill will towards you or your family. Blackthorn raised his sleeve to look at the time on his watch. I must go now. Though I have the feeling we will meet again. And Ryan felt it would be under circumstances far less friendly. Ryan was halfway to the harbor, when he received a call on his cell phone. Livia, he asked upon answering. Ryan, she answered on the other end of the line, a hint of worry breaking through her composure. How is Felix? Alive, but wounded, the courier answered. Livia sighed with relief on the other end of the line. He will recover, but they don't allow visits yet. I've tried. It's fine, I'm glad he is alive at all. I did not inform his sisters yet. Livia gulped, I dreaded a different answer. I wouldn't have let him die, Ryan replied. Or rather, he would have reloaded afterward. Thanks for sending Mr. Passamurail. He didn't help much, but it's the thought that counts. I guess you listened to me. About how we weren't enemies. Livia briefly paused before continuing. I hope I won't regret trusting you. You do work with my family's nemesis. Well, if it can reassure you, I've just been fired. She immediately seized the opportunity. Perhaps you would consider employment with us then? The Killer 7 are missing a Violet member. Sorry, Princess, I'll stay a free spirit for a while, Ryan answered, as he reached the harbor. I'm not sure if my presence is needed anymore. I get the feeling Dynamis will hit your drug factory even without my influence. My father's reaction will be different if Dynamis does it, rather than an unknown party. But we can discuss that when the situation becomes clearer. When do you think Felix can receive visits? I'll be honest. I don't know, and I'm not sure you will even be able to visit Adam Kitten at all. Her tone harshened. You think Dynamis will prevent us access? No, I think Felix won't want to see you or his family. No answer. Hey, you can always try. If I'm right, I can carry a message if you want. The Mafia princess had fallen completely silent. Though he had only said the truth, Ryan regretted his bluntness. For a second, he had forgotten how emotionally fragile the woman truly was, beneath her icy facade. Livia? Have you ever loved someone? She asked out of the blue. Not a fling, but true love? To the point that even though you know it's over, you still cling to any hope you can turn things around? I'm really not the best counsel on the matter, Ryan said sadly, as he noticed Len's bathysphere near the old piers. I came to New Rome chasing after a ghost. So you do understand, she said with a sad chuckle, before gathering her breath. You lived for centuries. Don't you have wisdom to offer? Things can change, the courier admitted, before considering it thoughtfully. But sometimes, it's better to learn to let go. You'll hurt yourself otherwise. Some wounds never heal, and you have to live with them. Livia seemed to see the wisdom in his words, but she didn't appreciate it. Thanks for your answers, Ryan. You're welcome, the time traveler replied, before falling silent. His thoughts turned to the meeting with Dynamis. Ryan? The Monadas overthrew their father, Ryan said out of nowhere. They talked it out and forced him into retirement. Now they intend to reform Dynamis into something better than before. He didn't even need to elaborate. Livia could probably see the parallels with her own situation, with a major difference. My father won't surrender with dignity, Ryan. No, probably not. Her regretful tone was heart-wrenching. I will get my cat back, Ryan said, changing the subject. The furry kind. I think I can arrange that, she replied with a chuckle, though it was mirthless.
Goodbye,
Ryan.
goodbye.
Princess, he said before hanging up on her and parking his car. Enrique and Alphonse had managed to free themselves from their father's hold. So why was it that Ryan couldn't help Len and Livia do the same? Bloodstream was long dead, and Augustus, for all his overwhelming power, couldn't overcome a mere tumor. No, the courier muttered to himself. I can't let them win. He couldn't let things end this way. Not again. Never again. He banished these thoughts and stepped out of his car. Len waited for him on the waterfront in full armor, 2 bathyspheres floating in the sea nearby. She carried a device in her hands. A gray metal helmet with pylons protruding from the front, and with a plug at the back. Dynamis hadn't printed its logo on it, probably to avoid being tied to the metagang should the device be found. It's underwhelming, Ryan said as he rejoined his friend. I expected something more complex. It's only a small part, Len replied with a genuine smile. The mere sight caused Ryan to forget all his worries for a brief instant. I moved the rest to your place. Your place. Such simple words, and yet so powerful. So, you were serious? Ryan asked. You're okay, with me moving to your undersea paradise? Yes, I am, she said with a nod, her smile faltering. It's over, right? You don't owe Dynamis anything anymore. No, and I've been fired anyway. Ryan would miss the condo, and he would steal a cashmere suit as a parting gift. I'm officially homeless again. Len considered her words for a second, but they came swiftly and firmly. No, Riri. No, you are not homeless. Ryan's heart skipped a beat for a moment, and he had to look away at the sea to hide his unease. It felt great to know Len wanted him back into her life. Even if their teenage relationship had long perished, she had Ryan's back, and he had hers. And with that tech, maybe his old lonely days would finally come to an end. You think it can work? Ryan asked for confirmation, praying not to be disappointed again. We will need time, but maybe, Len said with a smile, perhaps the first time she had shown some optimism in a long, long time. We will need to extract the chrono radio from your car though. I have a bigger submarine. To bring it under the sea. An undersea garage. Marvelous. Frankly, if this loop doesn't end with my Plymouth Fury getting in underwater mode, I will be sorely disappointed, Ryan mused, before a darker thought crossed his mind. But we might have to move to another location. Dynamis won't leave your base alone for long. They're not going to let us be? Her sweet face turned into an angry scowl. I should have known. They'll never be satisfied. I don't get why they're so interested in you though, the courier admitted.
Yeah.
You attacked a factory, but that's peanuts compared to the Augusti and the Meta gang. And in the end, it didn't cost them anything. Len sighed, as if reliving her failed youthful rebellion. I don't know, Riri. I think what they can't control, they destroy. No. Ryan sensed something bigger was at work, and it bothered him. What did they do when they captured you the first time? What questions did they ask? I don't remember much, she admitted. The first thing they did was to force me through a DNA test and take a blood sample. Afterward, nothing noteworthy. A sales pitch. A blood sample, you said? Why a blood sample of all things? And then it clicked. Memories flooded Ryan's brain, and he suddenly saw them under a new light. Lab 66. Enrique was supposed to oversee the whole elixir operation instead of Il Miglior. He visited the lab for 2 hours, and he immediately asked for a transfer afterward. If you ask me, there's something really shifty about the knockoffs, even Augustus scientists never found a way to copy them. Dynamis keeps the underdiver under close surveillance. You let her go? It was our early days all over again. I couldn't make elixirs. What I did was synthesize a specific resource that mimicked the properties of a true elixir. Such a shame, I would have loved to compare samples from various genome relatives. Various genome relatives. Genome relatives. Relatives. Len? Ryan asked, a terrible doubt creeping in his mind. When did Dynamis start producing their knockoff elixirs? Do you know the exact date? I'm not sure, I think they had a few in development, but they only started flooding the market 3 years ago or so. Shorty shut her mouth, and Ryan instantly regretted asking that question. She was smart. She had figured it out too. It's impossible, the courier said immediately. It can't be that. But it would fit. Len protested, genuine emotion breaking through her monotone voice. It would explain it all. Len, your father is dead. The genius flinched, as Ryan's tone turned deadly serious. Sunshine burnt him to ashes. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. He's gone. But if one of his clones, Len locked eyes with her old friend. You know it's possible, Riri. You just don't want it to be. No, he didn't. Ryan wanted to think that nightmare was over. That bloodstream was dead and buried, and could no longer harm either of his children, adopted or otherwise. But Len had never truly woken up. Riri, I've trusted you, even after everything I've killed for you, Riri. I trusted your words, I gave you a second chance. I'm willing to start fresh. She gathered her breath, struggling to find her words. I just want to get closure, Riri. I want to know. If we're wrong, we can move on. But we need this. We need to check. But if our hunch is right? Ryan asked. What will you do? What will we do? Len bit her lower lips, and looked at her feet without a word. Ryan gathered his breath, as he thought about his next words. I just want you to be free, Len. I want you to be free of him. To exorcise his ghost, so he no longer haunts you. You. He paused. Say it, Len said, without looking up. You remind me of a songbird in a cage, Len, Ryan admitted. You could be smiling and shine like the sun. You could fly away. The cage is open. But you're afraid he will close the door as you try to escape. No one will take away your freedom, but you're still afraid. Len looked back at her friend once more. Ryan, she said with an iron gaze. Not Riri. It's exactly why I won't budge on this. I need to know. I need to know. To get closure. Ryan wanted to argue further, but he could see in her gaze it was pointless. She wouldn't change her mind. And the worst part? While he hated to admit it, he needed to be sure too. Lab 66, the courier muttered to himself. 64, past fragment, a death in Monaco. Ryan Romano died countless times, by his hand or that of someone else. But there was one death that trumped them all. The death that made him stop caring, and taught him to enjoy life. The perfect death, that no one should return from. This is the story of this death. This is the story of Monaco. April 1st, 2017, France, village of La Turbie. The sun was falling behind the horizon, and the city of Monaco shone from below. Standing at the edge of the Tête de Chien promontory, his trusty motorcycle and travel bag nearby, Ryan observed his target carefully. It had been 5 years since he had left Italy, and now was the moment of truth. Well, technically it had been 3 months, but he lived through them again, and over again. He had toured the coasts of the Mediterranean Sea, looking for any sign of Len and her submarine. He knew they had planned to go to America before the separation, but she couldn't have crossed the Atlantic Ocean. She had to have stopped somewhere closer. Somewhere within his reach. However, Ryan was starting to lose hope. He had toured Greece, Spain, France, every place he could think of. He had wandered the post-war's wasteland, and came up short. And if she had left Europe completely, relocated underwater or on a distant island, he might as well look for a needle in a haystack. There was only one place around the Mediterranean Sea that Ryan hadn't visited yet. The country everyone warned him against. The place nobody returned from. Monaco, Ryan said, as he observed the coastal city. It looked nice, for a lack of a better term. And it bothered him a great deal. First of all, the microstate was still standing. That alone was unusual. Monaco had once been one of Europe's most luxurious coastal resorts, a den for gamblers and millionaires, and somehow, it still looked the part after the apocalypse. It seemed the bombs, robots, and nanoplagues had stopped at the border. The buildings and houses had been spared from any degradation, and yet the time traveler didn't see anybody in the streets. Boats and yachts floated in the sea, empty cars formed long lines on the driveways, and Ryan couldn't hear any noise. Not even the song of birds. "I know I'm tempting fate by saying this," Ryan muttered to himself, as he usually did to alleviate his loneliness, "but I've got a bad feeling about this. The time traveler saved this very instant, just in case." Many had gone to Monaco, searching for supplies, elixirs, or a safe haven, but none returned. But none of these people could time travel either. "Well, guess this is the last chance, Shorty," Ryan said, as he climbed on his motorcycle and drove towards the city. "If you aren't in the place nobody returns from." Well, he could always try to cross the ocean and reach America, if it still existed. But most likely, Ryan would have to face the obvious. That Len was gone. The time traveler had made his presence obvious, sent signals through radio towers and whatever communication channels he could find. If she hadn't contacted him yet, then she was either unable to respond or dead. And Ryan didn't know what to do, if he gave up on his friend. His quest to find Len had guided him through so many restarts, and he had no other purpose in life. No cause to dedicate himself to. The time traveler had been feeling adrift ever since Bloodstream's death, and not even his power could counter his gnawing sense of solitude. Without Len, his existence had no meaning. Ryan chased away these thoughts, climbed on his motorcycle, and followed the path down towards Monaco. As he reached the city's official frontier, the time traveler noticed a badly painted sign on the side of the road. "The armies of Andorra shall never conquer our great nation." Ryan read out loud. Wasn't Andorra another microstate? The apocalypse truly caused all the weirdos to crawl out of hiding. Ryan drove through the streets of Monaco, and much to his surprise, nothing terrible happened. He didn't instantly fall dead, and no crazy psycho ambushed him. It was almost disappointing. However, the time traveler sensed the pervading tension in the air. The streets were clean, the cars were all parked in the right spot, and the streetlights somehow worked perfectly, yet Ryan knew the city needed to import electricity from the French Republic, which had long collapsed. When he peeked through houses' windows, he found them empty. Ryan made his way to Monaco's most well-known landmark, the Place du Casino. The famous Monte Carlo Casino stood strong and proud, its 19th-century magnificence preserved from the apocalypse. The clock above the entrance remained stuck at 12, though the lights remained functional. The fountain in front of the entrance worked too, surrounded by a lush lane and floral arrangements. "Is there someone here?" Ryan asked, tempting fate. Only a heavy silence answered. Well, maybe he should look. The plaza vanished in a flash of yellow and violet. In the blink of an eye, Ryan found himself inside a luxurious marble hallway. Paintings adorned the walls, chandeliers provided some light, and the room led towards large wooden doors. After a brief moment of surprise, Ryan looked around, but found himself back against a wall with only his bag of supplies. Had he been teleported somewhere else? Ryan glanced at the paintings, most of them drawn in a surrealist style reminding him of René Magritte's. One painting, the Genesis, showed two gloved hands opening an alchemist wonder box. Another, the Triumph of Monaco, represented an army of golden men overrunning Mecran's robots. Perplexed, Ryan grabbed his supply bag and walked through the hallway until he reached the doors at the end. He noticed a sign above them, exquisitely painted with the brightest colors possible. Monte Carlo Grand Opening. However, next to that sign, Ryan noticed words crudely carved into the marble wall. Don't trust the clowns, they will eat your heart. Ryan continued reading, finding more advice carved into the stone. follow the arrows to the suites before it goes dark. A second sentence was written next to it. Whoever carved it had done so in a hurry. Don't use the stairs, take the elevator. Ryan lowered his gaze, noticing arrows carved on the floor. More and more confused, he opened the wooden doors and walked into the next room. Much to his surprise, Ryan entered a replica of the Monte Carlo casino, or at least, what little he had seen from pre-wars pictures. His steps echoed in a vast lobby supported by pillars, the ground replaced with a giant roulette table with 1-meter-wide tokens. Candelabras dangling from the ceiling provided the light, and the art decoration was the peak of 19th-century luxury. Ryan glanced at the windows, but all of them were walled off with marble. "Hello, dear guest," a voice said at Ryan's left, someone having snuck up on him. Ryan took a step back, and instantly activated his time stop. Or so he tried. He felt his ability strain against an invisible force for a brief second, but time refused to stop. Panicking, Ryan drew a gun hidden beneath his clothes, only to quickly realize his mistake. The creature in front of him looked like a human, but only superficially so. Its skin was unnaturally white, and most importantly, a clownish mask made of solid gold served as its face. It wore a croupier's costume, including a bow tie, an old jacket, and gloves. "Welcome to Monaco," said the clown with a cheerful voice, the gold mask moving unnaturally with each new word. Its eyes and mouth oozed darkness. "The greatest country on earth. How may I assist you?" Ryan tried to stop time again, but something prevented his ability from activating. Damn it, did this place interfere with his power? In that case, if Ryan died within these walls. "Where am I, Pennywise?" the time traveler asked, keeping his gun pointed at the clown creature. "In Monaco, of course. The greatest, most prosperous nation on earth, by the divine providence of His Highness Jean Stephanie." "Oh, a new guest." Ryan heard a new voice, as another clown walked into the lobby, albeit with a face of bronze instead of gold. Like its fellow clown, it wore a croupier outfit and carried a silver plate under its arm. "Welcome. Can I offer you a drink?" What the hell? Did Ryan enter a Stephen King novel by accident? "Jean Stephanie," he repeated, unsure which of these two clowns to shoot first. His Highness Jean Stephanie the First, Sovereign Prince of Monaco, Conqueror of Liechtenstein and San Marino. The golden clown waved a hand at a marble statue near the pillars, representing a strange creature in a flattering position. The figure vaguely reminded Ryan of a man in a suit with a fedora, but with elongated arms and distorted facial features. His Highness rose from humble birth to ascend to the throne of Monaco in 2005, by virtue of everyone else being dead. It said that with such cheerfulness too. Ever since, he has bravely defended Monaco against the Andorran hordes trying to destroy our great nation, the bronze clown continued, before pointing his hand in one direction east of the lobby. "Now, I can show you our 5-stars restaurant, if you wish for a warm meal? Or perhaps you would prefer to enjoy a game of roulette?" "Why are the windows walled off?" Ryan asked, as he glanced at the ground. The arrows carved on the floor pointed west. "Where's the exit?" "Why would you want to leave Monaco?" the bronze clown asked with a chuckle. "Why would anyone want to leave Monaco, the greatest nation on earth?" "I do," Ryan asked, more and more uncomfortable. "But you are a guest, you have been invited," the servant continued, its mask morphing into a disturbing smile. While he sounded innocent and cheerful, something in his tone made Ryan shiver. "We are at your service during opening hours. We are always there for you, dear guest." The more he stayed in their company, the more uneasy Ryan grew. Their kindness felt fake and forced. "I'll come back later," he promised, following the arrows. "But we'll be closed soon," the golden clown said, as he and the other servant followed Ryan. Their posture had changed slightly, turning threatening. We will be closed very, very soon. You stay away. Ryan raised a gun at them, before noticing other clowns making their way into the lobby. While all of them dressed like croupiers, their masks were made of bronze, silver, or gold. Though they maintained a respectable distance, they still stalked the time traveler like a smiling pack of wolves. I'm not afraid of clowns. We only want to help you, dear guest, the bronze clown said. He tried to sound reassuring, but it just came off as creepy. We exist to serve man. Ryan remembered the message at the entrance, and suddenly wondered if the sentence had a double meaning. He followed the arrow trail and eventually reached an open elevator in between two stairways. The wanderer briefly looked at them only to notice bear traps and wires placed on the staircases. With no other way out, he walked inside the elevator while threatening the clowns with his weapon. The genome noticed a sign saying "Here" right next to the 4th floor button, and smashed it as hard as he could. The door closed in front of Ryan, as a dozen masked creatures glared at him in eerie silence. Dear guests. Ryan froze, as he heard a male voice come from the elevator's loudspeaker. We must inform you that due to a national emergency, the Monte Carlo casino will close early. But I assure you that, as long as His Highness Jean Stephanie protects us, the armies of Andorra shall never destroy our principality. Long live Monaco. What the hell was this place? When the elevator reached the 4th floor with a ding sound, the lights had gone out, and the elevator's doors closed the second Ryan exited it. He also heard a sound coming from below, someone having triggered the wire trap. Sensing that things would get ugly very soon, Ryan grabbed his cell phone and activated the torchlight option. The area looked like a hallway leading to various hotel suites, though the walls and doors had been reinforced with steel plates. Only one room, numbered 44, seemed to have light coming from the other side, so Ryan quickly knocked on its door. Hey, he shouted as loud as he could, though nobody answered. Is somebody there? Hey. Ding. Ryan looked at the elevator as its doors opened, half a dozen clowns emerging from it. This time, they didn't invite him politely, or even say a word. Instead, they each carried silver forks and knives in hands, and napkins around their necks. And that's why children don't like clowns anymore. Ryan opened fire with his gun, while trying to stop time once more. Not only did his power fail to activate, but a silver clown took a bullet to the face without slowing down. The suite's doors opened, and someone stepped out. To Ryan's relief, though, his savior was a normal human, albeit one built like Conan the Barbarian. His savior wore some kind of scavenged outfit composed of an American football player's helmet and pads, reinforced with pieces of medieval armor. And most importantly, he carried a shotgun. I knew I heard something. The man spoke in French, clocking his shotgun. The face beneath the helmet was wrinkled, the eyes an icy blue. Move out. Ryan immediately stepped out of his savior's way, as he fired the shotgun. The shot blasted a bronze clown apart, the creature leaking a white liquid rather than blood. However, the others quickly pushed the corpse out of the way and rushed at the humans with hungry looks. Go, 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 the man shouted at the time traveler, and both bravely fled into the suite. The armored figure quickly closed the door behind them and locked the door, Ryan hearing a loud thump on the other side. The malevolent croupiers started screaming beyond the metal door, pummeling it with all their strength, but it held. One day, before arthritis gets to me, I'm going to go kamikaze on your ass, the armored man shouted through the door. I'll shoot you all up like Tony Montana, and kill every last one of you. He then turned to Ryan. You all right, kid? I think so. Ryan gathered his breath and looked around. As implied from the outside, the area was a luxurious hotel suite, big enough to welcome an entire family. Decorated in the 19th French century style, the place had walls white as snow, and windows walled off with marble. The suite included various amenities, from a sofa with TV, to a library and even a bar counter. Most strangely, Ryan also noticed a hole dug into one of the walls, a pickaxe nearby. "You sound Italian, are you a riddle?" the armored asked, switching to Italian. He completely ignored the noises coming from outside and moved to the counter, leaving his shotgun within arm's reach. He removed his helmet, revealing his utter baldness. Ryan would peg him around 60, maybe a bit more. "You've wandered far away from your country, macaroni. What's your name?" "Ryan, you French cheese," the traveler replied gruffly. "Ryan Romano. Name's Simon. I'm the sheriff of Sweetstown," the man said while bringing out 2 glasses and a bottle of brandy. "Which date is it outside?" "Gotta check. 1st of April, 2017, Ryan replied with a frown. The man let out a heavy sigh. "Fuck, 12 years, man. 12 years trapped in this place. Is the planet still an irradiated dump?"
Yeah.
"But where are we?" Ryan asked, demanding answers. "Is this the Monte Carlo?" "I would say hell, but you're not that lucky. You're in Monaco. The real Monaco, that nobody comes back from." An alarm echoed in the room, and Simon looked beneath the counter to grab a landline phone.
Yeah.
"Martine?" Though he didn't understand the conversation, Ryan heard a woman's voice on the other side of the line.
Yeah.
A new guy arrived and the croupiers followed him.
Yeah.
"He's safe. Don't worry." Simon looked at Ryan dead in the eyes. "You've got weapons in your bag?" 3 guns, bullets, medical supplies, food, and water." "Good. Gonna ask you to share. No selfish freeloaders here." Simon then focused on the phone.
Yeah.
"Martine, we'll meet tomorrow. Take care. You said you were the sheriff of Sweetstown?" Ryan pointed out after Simon hung up, carefully accepting the glass. He noticed a book at the edge of the counter, The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. "We're about 40 people spread all over the 4th floor, the man explained. "I'm keeping the elevator borders secure, maintaining the stairs traps. If we force the croupiers to use the elevator, it creates a bottleneck. Makes them manageable." "Have you seen anyone called Len?" Ryan asked, finding a ray of hope in this insane nightmare. "Len Sabino. Black hair, blue eyes, Marxist-Leninist. She must have arrived here 1 year ago. Ain't seen any commies yet, and I've been here for a while. Might be dead though. People like you, who arrive during the opening hours, they're the lucky ones. Those who arrive at a bad time, well," Simon gestured at the door, "they get eaten." So Len was either dead, or not in this place. Ryan prayed for the latter. "Are there?" "There's no other sanctuary, and no exit either," Simon said bluntly. "The suites are the only safe zones. Something keeps them out, but only if the door is locked. We'll find you a suite of your own." The man gave Ryan a fiendish smirk. "You're going to stay here for a while, petit riddle." "Damn it. 10 hours. The clown's assault lasted for 10 hours. They screamed and hit the door without any rest. When the lights returned in the hallway though, the attack stopped abruptly. The clowns calmed themselves and returned to the lower floor. As it turned out, they only turned hostile during closed hours." The next day, Simon introduced Ryan to the community's mayor Martine, a 28-year-old blonde living 4 rooms ahead of the elevator border. She quickly gave him a rundown of the situation. Everyone in the town had the same story. They came to Monaco either unaware of the danger or underestimating it, and ended up teleported into the entrance hallway. Simon had been here the longest, a few months after the Genome Wars started. Nobody else had powers, and Ryan's own time stop didn't work in that strange place. Well, he still sensed his ability activating, but an opposing force cancelled it at the last minute. When he learned more information about this place, the time traveler eventually realized why. The Monte Carlo casino was a pocket dimension. Or at least, that was Ryan's best guess. Besides the suite's floor, every room was a variant of 8 others: a kitchen restaurant, a giant roulette table, a lobby, a slot machine's room, a retail shop, a card game arena, a stocking area, and a theater. Each room led to another, never in the same configuration, forming a giant maze with only the elevator and the entrance hallway as the landmarks. According to the explorers' estimation, the area covered at least 8 square kilometers, 4 times the size of Monaco itself. And they kept discovering new rooms. It reminded Ryan of a dungeon crawl video game, with computer-generated rooms. Except it was a lot less amusing than he remembered. At least the coffee and restaurants restocked regularly, though nobody knew how it worked. Someone once placed a camera in a kitchen to record the phenomenon, and the food and water magically appeared during the closed hours. Ryan wasn't certain if his save point still worked. There was only one way to find out, and he wasn't in a hurry to try the noose checkout. He had died a dozen times, and each experience had been harrowing so far. Many had told him death was a peaceful end, but they clearly never died before. The community was divided into groups, each with a specific task, from explorers mapping the maze, to gatherers looking for food. Since he was one of the few experienced with firearms, Ryan quickly became Simon's deputy, with his own suite right next to the elevator. Right now, the time traveler was escorting Martine's group as they scavenged food. And he regretted it. "Dear guest, I hope you have a happy time in Monaco, the greatest nation on earth," a silver clown told Ryan, presenting him with a plate full of exquisite shrimps and salmon toasts. "May I offer you these gifts from our chef?" "Screw off," Ryan replied, threatening the croupier with a gun. Martine, less categorical, swiped all the toasts away and put it in a bag. The clowns were completely friendly during opening hours, which in Ryan's mind, made them even creepier. They switched from false affability to murderous hunger eerily fast, and they were frighteningly good at sneaking up on people. Worst, the Monte Carlo casino often closed early, at the whims of whatever force controlled the loudspeakers. The first time it happened, with only 5 minutes to return to the suites, Ryan thought his last hour had come. If he hadn't made a mad dash at the elevator, he would have certainly perished. A voice echoed through the loudspeakers. For a moment Ryan dreaded it might announce an emergency closing, but it was just the usual nonsense. "Today is a great day for Monaco. Our soldiers won a great victory against the Duke of Luxembourg. The blood of our enemies shall paint our yachts." Monaco had been at war with Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Andorra, San Marino, but never the same one each day. "Rise, Monaco, rise," the voice continued. "Long live Jean Stephanie." "I'm not even sure he exists," Martine told Ryan. "Nobody's ever seen him, not even the clowns." "Because His Highness is beyond our comprehension," one of the creatures interjected, only to be ignored. "Long live Jean Stephanie." "Could be a psycho," Ryan said as the group finished its scavenging and returned to the elevator. "If it interfered with his power, then it was probably a violet. Though I don't get why nobody came after me." "Perhaps his power sustains him," Martine offered, as they returned to the suite's floor. "Any progress with your radio?" "Nope." Some of the books the group managed to scavenge included manuals or pre-wars technology magazines. Ryan thought he could perhaps create a radio powerful enough to call for a rescue. It was a fool's hope, but until someone found an exit, it was all the group had. "Wanna watch a movie tonight?" Martine offered him. "I found a cassette of La Grande Vadrouille the other day. It's not high comedy, but it helps pass time." Maybe another day, Ryan replied, stopping in front of Simon's room. Gotta check on the old man. I just don't get why he keeps digging, the mayor sighed. I guess he's occupying himself the best way he can. Ryan shrugged and unlocked Simon's door. As the deputy, he had a double of everyone's keys. After closing the door behind him, Ryan made his way to the hole in the wall, activated a torchlight, and walked inside. It took him more than an hour, but he finally heard the sound of a pickaxe hitting stone. Simon was busy digging with a torchlight strapped to his helmet. Hi, Simon, Ryan announced his presence, though the sheriff didn't stop. We've got shrimp for tonight.
Ugh.
I would kill for a hamburger, the man complained, hitting the wall with his pickaxe. How long has it been since you joined us, Petit Riddle? 6 months. 6 months, which means 2 more until they change the menu. They do that each time on Christmas. The old man let out a sigh. You know, there was this guy, who had a puppy dog. He thought it was cute, so he kept sending me pictures. Every time I looked at the furred thing, it kept barking at me. It barked, and barked, and barked. It was annoying like you wouldn't believe. Every time it got on my nerves, I wondered, how does he taste? The guy? Ryan asked, a bit uncomfortable with the discussion. The puppy, Simon said. And one day, I couldn't resist. There wasn't much meat, but it tasted good. Like a Christmas gift I offered myself. I'm not sure I understand where this is going. God put us on earth for a reason, Petit Riddle, Simon said while making a short pause. Mine was to eat puppies. When I look at these rabid clowns outside, they all look like puppies to me. Ryan suddenly realized that years trapped inside a hotel suite did wonders for a man's sanity. The wanderer dreaded to imagine how he would look 10 years from now. How long is your tunnel now? 2 kilometers, Petit Riddle. 2 kilometers, Ryan repeated. How had the whole thing not collapsed on him yet? Your tunnel is 2 kilometers long now. I have enough energy for 10 more. I'm just saying, I don't think there's an exit this way. Though Ryan hadn't given up on finding one, he had the intuition this insane dimension expanded endlessly. I don't get why you keep digging. The older man looked into Ryan's eyes. Have you ever read The Myth of Sisyphus? No, but I probably will, since you pitch it to me all the time. In it, Camus presents the fate of Sisyphus, forced to roll a boulder for all eternity. A purely meaningless task. But when he finally realizes that it's futile, and he stops struggling against his fate, he is truly free. He has accepted his situation, and through acceptance, found happiness. So you think we'll never escape? Ryan asked with a disgusted frown. That all our efforts are for naught? Yes, our efforts are futile. But I accepted them as meaningless, so I'm at peace with myself. You though, Petit Riddle? You still think you'll get out, and the more you fail, the more frustrated you become. There's someone waiting for me outside, Ryan pointed out, remembering Len. I don't think so, Simon replied with a shrug. But suit yourself. I'm just telling you the secret of happiness, but I can't force it on you. What I'm saying is, when you're confronted with meaningless absurdity, you've just got to roll with it. Like the boulder. That's ridiculous. One day, you will realize the boulder isn't your enemy, Simon shrugged. It's your friend. What happens if, through some miracle, you reach an end, Ryan said. But instead of an exit, your tunnel leads to another suite? How would you react? I'll find a new wall, Simon replied with a bright smile, as he raised his pickaxe again, and dig another hole. Ryan opened his mouth, closed it, and then opened it again. The boulder is your friend, he asked with a frown. The boulder is your only friend. It was December 2035 in Sweetstown, and little had changed except the menu. Nobody had entered the maze for years, probably because people finally wised up to the danger of Monaco. Or perhaps their mysterious abductor had died, and his dimension kept working without him. Whatever the case, with no fresh blood, the community's numbers had started to dwindle. Once nearly 50 at their peak, they were now half that number. Some had been eaten by the clowns, while others just gave up. Simon ended up committing harakiri yesterday, as he promised he would. He went out one night to die like a man, a cigar in the mouth, a bottle of vodka in his left hand, and his shotgun in the right. In the end, the croupiers didn't kill him, though many of them died trying. Instead, the old sheriff's heart had failed him, unable to handle the stress of battle. The creatures hadn't eaten the body, though Ryan wasn't sure if it was because Simon scared them even in death or out of twisted respect. The villagers burnt the corpse and buried the bones beneath the bar counter he loved so much, and Ryan had taken over as Sweetstown's sheriff. He even inherited Simon's suite. And now, Ryan faced the tunnel, wondering what to do with it. Simon boasted he had reached the 5 kilometers mark before perishing, and would have probably continued had his body not failed him. He even left his pickaxe right next to the entrance. By now it had grown rugged from overuse, and could hardly dig anymore. And yet, the boulder is your friend, huh? Ryan muttered to himself, as he grabbed the pickaxe. It was December 2101 in Sweetstown, and Ryan was the last man in Monaco. He rested on his bed, a pile of food within arm's reach, scribbling his life's memoir inside a journal. Though nobody new arrived in decades, he wanted to leave any help he could in case someone ended up trapped in Monaco. Over the century, the wanderer had explored the Monte Carlo casino farther than anyone, but learned little more. The maze truly was infinite, as far as he could tell. None of the systems needed electricity to work, the landline phones linking the rooms functioning even while cut off from one another. There was no central communication system to carry orders through loudspeakers, no birthplace for the staff. This place made no sense. It was a conceptual space, with no logic but the maker's will. It had to be a yellow genome's doing, but Ryan could never confirm it. He had tried everything, from radios to bombs. He had blown up the entrance hallway, dissected the clowns, and even attempted bizarre occult rituals when all else failed. Nothing worked. There was only one way to escape this place, and Ryan had the feeling it would happen soon. 2 decades ago, when there were only 5 of them left with most too old to survive without help, the survivors summoned a meeting. All of them decided to take the bullet checkout option, except Ryan. He had died too many times already to want to hurry it up. A clown knocked on his suite's door, interrupting his work. "Dear guest, perhaps you would enjoy a game of baccarat downstairs? We are organizing a tournament just for you." "No thanks," Ryan rasped, refusing to leave his bed. They waited at the door day and night, those assholes. They waited for him to die like hungry hyenas stalking an old lion. But the time traveler refused to perish out of sheer spite. As a genome, inherently better than humans, Ryan had aged gracefully. While his body showed wrinkles, he kept the vigor of a middle-aged man even while past a century old. And then, Ryan's health suddenly started deteriorating 1 year ago. Perhaps his elixir-enhanced body came with an expiration date, or it was just the accumulated toll of living so long without natural light, fresh air, or company. 30 days ago, the genome woke up only to realize he couldn't move far from his bed without collapsing. Thankfully, he had accumulated a food and water reserve just for this occasion. Ryan slightly regretted not going on a suicide run like Simon when he had the chance. At least he would deny his jailers any satisfaction in his own way. His old eyes wandered to the edge of his room, and the tunnel beyond. He had almost reached the 15 kilometers mark when his body finally failed him, and it would remain one of his last regrets. But most of all, Ryan regretted never finding Len. Never knowing what happened to her. He had learned a great many things over the years, devouring any source of knowledge he could find, sharpening his fighting skills, but he never discovered how the world continued beyond these walls. He would die with unfinished business. That was the most ignominious part. But, well, it had been a life at least. He had defeated Bloodstream, and made sure he would never kill anyone again. Ryan hadn't done everything he could have done, but he tried. Maybe it was an old man's last attempt at comforting his guilty conscience, but, as he closed his eyes for the last time, the Wanderer thought he had found the acceptance Simon preached to him so long ago. Accepting his fate didn't bring him happiness. But it brought him closure. And so, Ryan slept. And he woke up again, facing a bright light. What is? The Wanderer raised his hand, the overwhelming radiance too much for him. It burned his eyes with its brilliance, and that strange force brushing against his cheeks. Was it wind? When Ryan acclimated to the light, he realized he was facing the sun. His hand was no longer wrinkled, his legs could still carry him, and he felt young again. So very young, so very strong. He breathed fresh air again, for the first time in almost a century. As he looked down, and observed Monaco from above, it didn't take Ryan long to realize where he was. It was the same stone promontory where he last saved, almost a century ago. But I died. I died in Monaco, and my power, did the pocket dimension prevent the time stop, but not the save point? And yet, the way he perished. It couldn't be mistaken for anything else. Ryan knew it deep within his bones. Old age. Ryan Romano had died of old age. And the whole thing started. All over. Again. I can't die of old age, Ryan realized, as he collapsed to his knees. I'm immortal. I'm immortal. It would never end. It would never, ever end. He would always start over, all over again. Forever and ever. Though it could prevent the time stop, even Monaco couldn't undo the save point. Even old age wouldn't cancel his save point. Ryan chuckled to himself. Ryan exploded into nervous laughter, rolling on the stone near his motorcycle. He didn't know how long he laughed, but by the end, the sun had long vanished, and his throat felt sore. Then the time traveler rested on his back, looking at the stars in silence for half an hour. Finally, when he rose up and looked at the stars, Ryan realized that he felt nothing. He had been scared of death before. Dreaded it. He feared the pain, the loss, the brief oblivion after the light went out. Dying wasn't fun. But that was before. Now, he was no longer scared. Death no longer felt painful. After realizing even old age wouldn't put him down for long, the Wanderer had grown numb to it all. Ryan Romano was condemned to live. To carry that boulder at the top of the hill, and begin again. He remembered Simon's words, and realized the old man might have been right. The time traveler was Sisyphus reborn, and his life was absurd. And instead of horror, Ryan felt a deep sense of liberation. You know what? The time traveler muttered to himself, looking down at Monaco below. I don't care anymore. If Ryan was condemned to live, it would be to the fullest. He was no longer afraid of anything, and he had all the time in the world. All the time to see how everything could play out, to try everything worth doing. His life was an endless game, and the sky was the limit. He was free to anything he wanted. And right now, Ryan wanted to free Simon, Martine, and everyone trapped in this hellish place. If the time traveler's life were a video game, it would be his first quest. The first of many, but far from the last. And after seeing the bad end, he wouldn't settle for anything less than the perfect ending. Ryan had embraced the absurd, and learned to love the bolder. 65. In mysterious ways. Sitting on a sofa right next to the inactive plushie, Ryan stared into the abyss of the Tyrrhenian Sea. He found it relaxing to wake up to the sight of silent darkness and mutated fish, especially after he had grown used to New Rome's noisy environment. Each apartment was a carbon copy of the other, each tenant free to decorate their own as they saw fit. Ryan had of course brought his entire wardrobe, and thrown euro bills everywhere to protect himself from the specter of Vladimir Lenin. It certainly haunted this underwater Kremlin. As it turned out, Len meant that she had borrowed the Meta's own submarine during the raid. Now the vehicle waited right outside the underwater habitats, and Ryan had an excellent view of it from his underwater apartment. However, while the submarine had allowed Len to smuggle the Plymouth Fury to her base, it also meant that the Meta gang could reach the area if they wanted. The courier would keep it in mind for future loops. "Don't do anything rash," Ryan jokingly told the plushie while rising up from his sofa. He then moved through the corridors linking the underwater habitats together. Shorty's own lair was next door to his own, probably because she worried the courier might influence the kids without surveillance. Besides her own habitat, Len had established a workshop close to the living spaces. Unlike the comfortable apartments, this part of the underwater base reminded Ryan of a steampunk factory, all metal walls, and steam pipes. It wasn't as well equipped as Vulcan's, and far less organized. Len had hooked the servers administering the underwater base to Dynami's brain scan machine, while half-finished machines covered various workbenches. Len had hung designs of submarines, underwater cocoons, and even artificial fish on the walls to save space. Most important, Ryan's Plymouth Fury waited in a corner. Len had removed the chronoradio's components, the engine, and pretty much every piece of genius tech inside. He knew it was a sacrifice for the cause, but the sight of his beloved car turned into a husk filled the courier's heart with sorrow. And of course, Len listened to Alexandrov Ensemble's March of the Artillerymen while working. Even Ryan had to admit that it was a good song, but his genius friend couldn't look more Marxist even if she tried. Thankfully, somebody else was already annoying her today. "But Mama, you said I would get a suit too," little Sarah complained to Len, carrying a cat in her arms. The genius was sitting behind a workbench, working on the Dynami's tech. "That I would be the little diver." "Sweetie, I know, but I have to work on something else first." For once, Len had traded her jumpsuit for simple blue clothes. She looked a lot more lively when she turned to face Ryan, perhaps because she felt more confident inside her lair. "Hi, Riri." "Hi Shorty, little hellion," Ryan greeted them, before recognizing the cat in Sarah's arms. "Eugene Henry. He showed up in my room this morning," little Sarah said, the animal meowing in her arms. "Did you bring him from the surface to the magical place?" "No, he brought himself," Ryan replied, immediately petting the placid cat behind the ears. The feline's teleportation ability had an enormous range. "Also, it's called the Kami Cave." "The Ark," Len said with a frown. "The Kami Cave," Ryan insisted. "Corpos are a cowardly and superstitious lot. To instill fear in their heart, we must abolish private property." Len rolled her eyes. "If this is a bat cave, what do we call ourselves?" "The Hammer and the Sickle," Ryan immediately answered. "The perfect union of peasant and working-class superheroes. The children can become our minions, the proletariat." Len let out a small sound that the courier hadn't heard in centuries. "Ma?" Sarah asked, having never heard it either. "Shorty, you chuckled?" Ryan asked. Len tried to look away to hide her facial expression, but he was persistent. "Even you must admit my jokes are funny." "No, they aren't," his old friend replied while trying not to smirk. "You're bad, Riri." You're so bad, it loops back to good. Like a boomerang. What can I say, all my jokes are state approved by our Soviet Supreme. Len now wore a warm smile on her face, which in Ryan's mind was worth all the runs so far. I'm not like that, Riri. What's a Soviet Supreme? Little Sarah asked while petting Eugene Henry. Wait, you didn't send her to the party congress? Ryan frowned at Len. These children will be lost without a good revolutionary education. Len shook her head, the smile still on her face. I haven't thought much about education, she admitted. I was too focused on building the place first. What's a Soviet Supreme? Little Sarah asked, before glaring at Ryan. Talk, motherfucker. It's a bad idea, Ryan answered truthfully before patting Sarah on the head. And that's all you will ever know. Sarah immediately stuck out her tongue at him, causing Eugene Henry to meow loudly and leap out of her hands. He immediately took over a server as his throne, looking down at the humans like a noble sphinx. Sweetie, can you leave us for a moment? Len asked Sarah. I need to discuss something with Riri. Privately. Little Sarah looked at Ryan and Len in turn, her gaze turning very, very suspicious. Yes, Ma. The little girl left while squinting at them, and Ryan sat on the workbench once she was gone. Are you happy now? They will think we do adult things behind closed doors, though we did, long ago. That was, Len's face turned embarrassed. Awkward. Well, it was both our first time. And they had to do it in a hurry, so her father wouldn't notice. I remember it fondly. Len didn't answer, probably because they discussed an era long gone. Ryan still longed for the emotional intimacy they once shared, however. Maybe that was what he was looking for with Jasmine, the echo of something once vibrant, yet long dead. Was that how Livia felt whenever she thought of Felix? Have you made progress? Ryan changed the subject upon sensing Len's lack of comfort with the discussion. Sort of, she replied, joining her fingers. Have you? Ryan sighed. Now it was his turn to feel uncomfortable. An idea crossed my mind, he admitted. Did your father ever use his power on you? I don't think so. If he had, I wouldn't be here. I would have become him. He could have done something more subtle. Closed your wounds, perhaps? Why are you asking me this? Len asked, her smile gone. You remember when you took your elixir? She nodded slowly in response. Your father instantly knew you had done so. At first, I thought it was because he could sense blood and manipulate it from afar, but what if he had left a trace of himself inside you? Like a blood beacon? You were his cherished daughter, his only reason to live, Ryan said with a frown. He always managed to find us when we wandered off. Len's worried face told the courier she considered it a strong possibility. You think that's what Dynamis is after? Something he left behind? It's possible. I will need a blood sample to check, and the tools in the back of my car. What about the knockoffs? Len asked suddenly. You studied elixirs, right? Didn't you notice a match? How? The carnival made sure to erase any trace of your father specifically to prevent him from returning. I had nothing to compare the knockoffs to. Until now, Len frowned. Riri, if there is a match. I know, Ryan sighed. But can we focus on the brain transfer project first? It's dangerous, Len. It might take me more than one run to get into Dynami's labs, and I don't want you to forget me again. I will do what I can. Len cleared her throat. But there's something missing. Something is wrong. Of course. There was always a new roadblock to overcome, but Ryan remained an optimist. The tech doesn't work? It does, she replied, pointing at the brain-scanning helmet. It can make a brain map and create a computer simulation. I can then send it to a host, to overwrite the previous cognitive system. The closer the host's nervous system to the simulation, the better. Otherwise, the host brain will degrade. Conflicting memories, confused neurons. But if we send your memories to your past self, then there shouldn't be any problem, right? Ryan asked. It should be fine. Maybe a harmless concussion, maybe nothing. Len crossed her arms. Should work even wirelessly when I'm done. Then where's the catch? To wirelessly send the memories to a host through time, you need, Len struggled to find the right words. You need more power. More power than any natural energy source can provide. Ryan quickly caught on. Like violet flux? Yes. I think we can only send signals, let alone the brain map, back in time if we hook the chronoradio to Vulcan's armor. But, Ryan immediately noticed the problem. That wasn't the case in the previous run. The chronoradio was destroyed, and Jasmine and I created the armor afterward. Yet we still received future recordings. Yes, Len nodded slowly. I don't think I sent the chronoradio messages, Riri. Or at least, not the previous me. It could have been a future me. That's not how time works, unless I have been wrong about everything, Ryan replied, scratching his hair. Only 2 time periods could exist through his save point. It has to be something else. All the messages revolved around our interactions during the previous loop. Then, who sent the messages? Ryan tried to remember the end of the previous run, and his trip to the purple world. The visions he had seen, and the colossal entity he briefly made contact with near the end. The ultimate ones are compassionate, though narrow-minded. And the chronoradio message happened right when Ryan seriously considered giving up. Not who, the time traveler realized. What? Ryan looked at Eugene Henry, as a few things fell into place. The cat had somehow gained powers across time, deliberately led Livia to the courier, and then appeared in the commie cave right when Len considered studying violet flux for her experiment. Far too many coincidences at once. You aren't teleporting at random at all, the courier accused Eugene Henry. You're being teleported by something else. Something showing us the way, telling us we can succeed if we work hard enough. The cat meowed in response. Riri, you're talking to a cat. It makes sense in the context, Ryan defended himself, while Eugene Henry licked his own shoulder. You remember what I told you, Shorty? About what I saw in the purple world? She quickly connected the dots. You think the pyramid thing is, what, helping us? The courier nodded, leaving Eugene Henry to his cleaning. I'm starting to wonder if these visions, the chronoradio signals, and Eugene Henry's teleportations are truly random events, or an attempt at communication. That sounds, Len tried to find the right words. I dunno, a bit far-fetched. And if it's as powerful as you think it is, why do so little? Why only teleport a cat around, of all things? Why would it even care? I dunno, Ryan admitted. It's just a theory. But I find all these strange coincidences oddly convenient, and I'm convinced the people I saw in my vision are either the alchemist or connected to them. You saw a base in Antarctica, right? Len asked. Could you identify where exactly? Maybe, Ryan replied. I have only seen the night sky, not enough to pinpoint the exact position, but at least we can narrow it down. We could visit that base, she suggested. With the submarine. Check, after we're done with the rest here. The rest. Such an understatement. I guess I better work on that heist then, Ryan said. Since Len kept the car, and they weren't even married, Ryan had to use a bathysphere to reach the surface, and then called a taxi to get to his destination. A taxi. Is this karma for leaving my car to die? Ryan wondered out loud, as he stepped out of the taxi and right in front of a Dynami's-owned hospital, the same one where Psyshock's victims had been brought to during the courier's first Il Miglior loop. Private security members protected the building from intruders, but much to Ryan's surprise, no journalists waited at the entrance. Either Dynami's kept the patient's identity strictly confidential, or all media were in the company's pocket. Probably both. As he made his way towards the entrance, Ryan quickly noticed a familiar face leaving the hospital and climbing at the back of a Mercedes-Benz. A young teenager with short brown hair, blue eyes, and a heart-shaped face. Narcinia. As for her chauffeur, Ryan recognized him as Mortimer out of costume and with sunglasses. Though the courier only caught a glimpse of her, Felix's adoptive sister looked quite upset. He guessed her meeting with her brother hadn't gone well. The guards let Ryan in after a quick security check, and the courier found Wardrobe and the panda waiting for him in the entrance hall. The former was talking with an unknown woman, and the latter texted on his phone with tears in his eyes. They had brought chocolate and flowers with Felix's name on them. "Hi, Ryan." Wardrobe greeted the courier, though the panda was too focused on his task to notice. "I'm so glad you could make it." "Hi, Yuki." Ryan waved his hand at his favorite fashion designer, before glancing at the other woman in the room. She was in her early 20s, with shoulder-long brown hair and striking amber eyes, probably British too. Unlike the more feminine Wardrobe, she wore a gray corporate suit, albeit one as stylish as Blackthorn's. "Hello, quick save," she said with a warm smile, offering him her hand to shake. "Definitely British. I'm Nora Moore. Yuki spoke a lot about you." "She's my girlfriend," Wardrobe said with a smile. "The architect." "The pleasure is all mine," Ryan said, as he took Nora's hand and kissed it in the most gentlemanly way instead of shaking it. The woman blushed a little at the surprise attention, though the courier frowned at Wardrobe next in displeasure. "But she doesn't have a costume." "I'm disappointed, Yuki." "I know," Wardrobe sighed. "I tried." "I can't wear a costume like yours at work," Nora replied with an embarrassed smile, before glancing at Ryan. "I'm not a superhero, but an independent contractor and urban planner. I have a genius power specialized in cities and architecture." "And she is amazing," Wardrobe said with a bright smile. "Come on, Nora, show him." Her girlfriend showed Ryan her tablet, which showed advanced plans of arcology like self-sustaining towns, a flying city, and even an underground bunker settlement. "So you can make any kind of city?" the courier asked, quite impressed with her work. He recognized most of the features thanks to his own knowledge, but Nora made excellent use of limited resources. "And for a fraction of the expected cost, from what I gather." "How could you tell?" Nora asked with a raised eyebrow. "Well, you fully optimize the space, energy consumption, and material," Ryan said, pointing at various parts of the designs. "Though I think you could move the generators closer to the water recycling for shorter heating circuits." "Interesting idea," Nora said with a smile. "Are you a genius too?" "Ryan is super-duper smart," Yuki said, doing the courier's publicity for him. "You should see his car and weapons, it's a treasure trove." "Unfortunately my Plymouth Fury is in a garage for now," Ryan said before returning the tablet. "Do you plan to resettle areas destroyed by the Genome Wars? Some of your designs don't make sense otherwise." "You're quite sharp," Nora replied with a nod. "A lot of my projects were scrapped by the previous administration, but the new one seems more open-minded." It will be nice to design something other than fortress cities in Sicily. Have you ever wanted to build an underwater metropolis? Ryan asked, wondering if he should introduce her to Len. Because I know a genius specialized in sea-based technology. She's a Marxist-Leninist, however. The idea of oceanic settlements crossed my mind, yes. I would be happy to meet with her, though considering her political leanings, it will be outside of Dynamis. Nora observed Ryan closely, a warm smile on her lips. Maybe we could discuss that in length another time? You seem quite knowledgeable about genius tech, and I would be delighted to exchange with you further. The way she looked at him made Ryan realize that he really had a thing for female geniuses, even when they played for the other team. Tell me, did you design the Dynamis HQ and Optimates Tower? He asked the architect. I think I recognized your style from the plans. I did, yes, it was one of my earliest work, so I'm not all that proud of it. Why? Nothing, Ryan replied innocently, a sinister plan forming in his mind. Also, I apologize. For what? The architect asked with a raised eyebrow. I know everyone does that, but I shamelessly flirted with Wardrobe before I knew of your existence, Ryan apologized, making Yuki all flustered. I hope you don't hate me for it. She really deserved it. Oh, that? Nora exploded into laughter. It's fine. I really like the bunny costume you made for her actually, we'll make good use of it. I'm sorry, Ryan, I would totally date you both at once if I could, Wardrobe said with a sorry face. It's an exclusive contract. Civil union and all. Yes, I'm afraid so, Nora said with a coy smile. But I will give you my blessing to send Yuki an application if we end up breaking up. You seem like a nice person. But if I wasn't with Nora, I would wear your bunny costume, force you into a Hugh Hefner one, and we would make love everywhere in my condo. Yuki told Ryan with a wink. I like beautiful people. Men, women, it doesn't matter, so long as they dress well and are beautiful inside too. And you're beautiful everywhere, Ryan. Thanks, the courier replied, happy to keep such a cultured, gentle soul as a friend. He would make sure they got to hang out together during his perfect run. Also, Ryan, I imagined a new costume for you. Wardrobe said while grabbing the tablet and opening a new file. I was so sad when I learned you would leave the team, I had to make a new one. We can still team up, Ryan said. Like Batman and Superman. I'll be the grim vigilante, and you the law-abiding citizen. I've thought of that. Wardrobe presented him a sketch of the costume, all dark and edgy except for a silver lining on the chest. You've turned your back on the light and embraced the darkness, you've chosen to wear Karl Lagerfeld. No longer a villain, no longer a hero, but someone in the twilight. Yet the silver lining on your chest means that you're still looking for redemption. But it's still made of cashmere? Ryan asked, hopeful. Only the shirt beneath, hidden like your tortured soul, Wardrobe continued, the jacket will be made of guanaco. Pure genius. Ryan then glanced at the panda, who hadn't left his seat yet. Is that any way to greet your sensei, arrogant young disciple? When the young hero looked up at his master, it was with tears. I'm sorry, Sifu, he said, holding his phone with his tiny human hands. I just can't. He showed Ryan his cell phone, and the website he had been browsing. Pandemania, the courier asked upon reading the name out loud. The landing page represented his animal friend with a cape and a lightning hammer, with the panda's true power written below. It's a meme, his young and naive disciple said, with tears in his eyes. A meme site. I have memes. He is a hit on the Dynanet and our social networks, Nora explained. His first merchandise sold incredibly well, almost as much as all other new recruits combined. Ryan could see why. It seemed the Dynanet users loved exalting the panda as an unstoppable badass, photoshopping pictures of him in place of action movie stars. The panda is the key to everything. Panda OP, please nerf. One just does not say no to a panda. The panda didn't take a second elixir to give Augustus a fighting chance, and so on. I'm famous. The panda wiped away a tear. Everyone thinks I'm amazing and strong. You deserved it. Wardrobe patted him on the shoulder with a smile. You were so brave fighting the meta gang. I thought you stole everyone's spotlight. Yes, young disciple, here is the reward for your hard work, Ryan said, trying to imitate a wise elder's voice, but this is only the first step towards ascension. Many roadblocks await you. Thank you, Sifu. I wouldn't be here if you hadn't believed in me. You, the panda couldn't prevent himself from crying. You are my friend. Hug me, you stupid man-bear. And so they did. Tightly. He felt so warm and furry to the touch, even while in human form. Wardrobe looked at them for a moment and then joined in, while her girlfriend looked on with amusement. Eventually, a nurse came for them. Mr. Varon will receive you now.